Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of the Audio Drive X podcast. I'm here with Doug from Jeremy and the Roosters. Hi, Doug. Do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the band and everything?
Sure, sure. My name's Doug. I'm actually the lead singer and bassist for Jeremy and the Rooster. We started as a bunch of friends that were in a cover band and created a new cover band and started focusing on 90s rock and grunge. And this was just prior to the pandemic. So during the pandemic, we actually we rehearsed and did shows remotely using some interesting software.
Well, that's cool.
And through that, we came out at the end of it with 4 or 5 hours worth of cover tunes. So we started hitting the local bars and clubs and such, and just having a blast playing all the great songs from the '90s. And we just this past year started to delve into original music, all very heavily influenced by early '90s rock and grunge, usually dark themes. Heavy beats and such. Like the first one is very, very much influenced by Rage Against the Machine. The others actually aren't quite that same thing, but the first one
Yeah,
off the bat is very Rage.
yeah, nice. Yeah, I actually I listened to what's the name of the single? Prawns,
Pawns. Yeah.
Pawns, and that's the first thing I thought when I heard that. I was like, sounds very Rage Against the Machine. It was pretty cool. I like it.
Yeah, normally I put together the music and we put together some draft tracks and I kind of see how lyrics flow over top of it and what melodies come out. But this one was it was just angry and all I could do was scream. So it ended up being a rap song.
Yeah, it worked though. It worked with the music and everything. It
Yeah.
blended well together. All right, well, I'm gonna ask you a few questions just to kind of get an idea for my fans, so they could follow you and everything. So, who are some of your biggest influences in the music industry?
Um, Not surprisingly, most of those go back into the '90s. Pearl Jam is huge. Foo Fighters, enormous. Rage Against the Machine, of course. Beyond that, Bush, and more recent stuff. Past the turn of the century is Shinedown. I love Shinedown. Disturbed is pretty awesome as well. So those would be the main influences.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I those are Shinedown's definitely one of those bands that have carried uh, the rock music through to the 2000s and onward.
Yeah.
I've always said that them between them and Three Doors Down kind of carried the torch through, pushed it through. Um, what would be your dream venue to play?
Um, Obviously, the first thing that would come to mind is something like Madison Square Garden, being here in New York. Um, don't have any realistic expectation of that happening. But I would also add, like, anywhere we could play where we're involved in being a warm up band for Pearl Jam or Foo Fighters or Shinedown would be awesome as well.
Yeah,
Wouldn't even care where.
yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Not more where, but the time and place
Yeah.
or sort of thing, I guess. Cool. What would you consider the most underrated album?
Um, I have a couple of real favorite bands that didn't really make it very far that I think got put out some incredible albums. One is Deaf Pedestrians. They had their debut album I thought was just phenomenal. There's another band called Hurt, and their album Goodbye to the Machine is just absolutely amazing.
Okay.
Unfortunately, neither one of them got very popular, and actually they're both disbanded at this point.
Ah, that's too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always those like hidden gems, for bands that.
Yeah, Hurt in particular actually has some songs where they manage to convey a story and an emotion that is unusual. They have one called Overdose that is just a shockingly accurate depiction of addiction, and the frustration and anger that comes along with it. Highly recommend that one.
Okay, I'll have to give them a listen. I've never heard of them before. So, awesome. What would be your guilty pleasure song?
I'm assuming that means something that I wouldn't normally listen to or
Yeah.
might even be embarrassed of. I would actually have to say Pink Pony Club.
So,
I knew of the song before. I think, I've heard it at weddings and such.
yeah.
And we actually played a gig, wasn't Jeremy and the Rooster, but we played a local gig with guest singers from all the different local bands. And they got to pick all their songs. And one of them picked Pink Pony Club. And not only is it just a nice, very catchy, fun song, but if you really dig into it and you actually listen to the meaning of the song, it's heart-wrenching. It's about gay or trans people, leaving behind their family because they're unaccepted.
Yeah.
The song moved from being like a fun, upbeat song to me to being like, I could practically cry when I hear it.
Yeah. Actually, the first time I actually heard that song wasn't the original. I was going through Instagram or something. And I saw, what's his name? The Corey Taylor, doing a cover of it at the end of one of his concerts, and I was like, I had never heard the original before that. So, but it was pretty interesting that that's one instance where I've actually heard the cover before the original, and I was like, of course, I have an 11-year-old daughter, and she was listening to it one day, and I like the original, and I said, "Wait a second," you know what I mean? It was like, oh, okay, this is okay. It was kind of neat, but I agree. I find that song pretty catchy. Got a really catchy beat,
Mm-hmm. It's a very boring bass line, I must say, though.
yeah. But I don't know, just the how it's sung, and I don't know much about singing, but just that it's kind of got like an uplifting. I don't know what to say. Like, it's good. It's not boring.
Yeah.
They make it work. Awesome. Cool. That was a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. What would you say is the most influential event for music that's happened?
I would actually say it's not actually a musical thing, but it was effect on music was dramatic. It's the Telecommunications Act of 1996, signed into law by Bill Clinton. It took all the limits off of ownership of radio stations. So prior to that, there were limits on how many radio stations a single company could own. And that allowed the early 90s grunge movement to be pushed by local radio stations versus, as an organic movement. So by the late 1990s, all of those stations were bought up and they were owned by a couple of companies. And all the programming was therefore done out of Chicago or New York. And nobody had a choice of what they were putting on their radio stations anymore. And effectively killed that whole grunge and alternative rock movement.
Yeah.
So that was a horrible thing that happened to music.
Yeah.
But I would also say the release, the airing of the Smells Like Teen Spirit video was also a quite pivotal moment.
For sure.
Blew up the 90s.
I was only... Oh, yeah, I was young when that came out, but that's definitely one of the, the soundtracks for... That's part of the soundtrack for the 90s, right?
Yeah.
That was a huge song. And it's still... I still think that song carries weight today.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think it's gone on through generations of... I don't know how to say that, but it's carried on.
Yeah, definitely.
I think. Cool. So, what would you consider your top 3 favorite albums? Like on any, if you were on a deserted island.
Right. Pearl Jam's 10, which we actually did a show, I think 2 or 3 years ago now. We did a show where we learned the entire album front to back and did it in order and just had such
nice.
an incredible time with that. And we have about a 12-minute clip of all the songs on our website and on our YouTube channel. But that's just a great album. Every single song. Like, not a bad song. It may be one song I wouldn't want to hear again, but for the most part, they're all great.
Nice.
Rage Against the Machine's Battle of Los Angeles. You know, a lot of Rage fans would argue between their 3 90s albums which one's the best, but I loved Battle of Los Angeles. Just incredible. The grooves, the lyrics are just amazing. What song am I thinking of? The Sleep Now in the Fire. I thought it was just some of the most brilliant lyrics ever. You know, the twisting of all of the different wonderful things the country has done into different words. You know, the priests of Hiroshima, stuff. All those lines are just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big Rage fan. I just their music. It's so good.
And then Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Chili Peppers.
Wow.
It's an incredible album.
Yeah.
Another album where every single song is strong.
Yeah.
And it's stylistically just was different than things that were out before it.
For sure, yeah, it was a different sound.
Yeah.
Because that came out, what, in 92? 91 or 92?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was like a different sound from what was going on at that point. Definitely. Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, that's kind of all I have for you, but thanks for joining me. You know, and for all my fans, go check out Jeremy and the Roosters on Instagram. They have a lot of good footage on there, and you know, follow them. And where else can they find you?
Yeah, I would add we have jeremyandtherooster.rocks as our website. It will point you to everything else.
Okay.
But I would encourage people to go to our YouTube channel and watch the actual official video for Pawns, because it is being censored and has algorithms fighting against it on the major platforms right now. They use AI to read the lyrics and understand the content, and their references to immigration and socialism and things that label it as political content, and therefore we're having difficulty promoting it. The images are from cell phone cameras from protests of ICE abuses and such. So all of that stuff is being really squashed by our wonderful social media platforms starting this year.
Okay. So there, guys, go find them on YouTube and go follow them there. Are you working on a new album or anything with the new single coming out?
We're actually working on new singles. Yeah, we've got a few of them already fully drafted. We're just releasing one at a time. Instead of getting a full album together. So the next one is likely to come out within the month. It's called Panic Room.
Yeah.
And that's about mass shootings and our lack of ability to do anything about it in this country.
Okay.
So I'm sure the censors will have fun with that one too.
There's got to be a way you can sneak it through.
I don't know. We got one coming up that should sneak through.
Yeah.
You know, this one calls out the NRA and politicians, so you know.
Yeah. Cool. Well, thanks for joining me, for this interview. It was a pleasure meeting you, and I plan on following you guys, seeing what you guys come up with next.
Cool.
And
awesome.
again, to my friends, check them out on YouTube. They're check out their single Pawns, and I take it you have some of your cover songs on there too.
Oh yeah, there's videos of us doing tons of different songs.
They do some really good covers of Pearl Jam and whatever from the 90s. So check them out on there. And again, thanks for joining me, and thank you to my fans for listening to this podcast. All right, well, we'll See you later.
All right. Good.
Bye. Just stay on for a second.